And we're live. Oh my goodness. I'm going to cough. I've had a
Okay.
cough drop in. Hi, everybody. Oh
Hi.
my goodness. We are going to have such great ghost stories today, talking about some castles. But my goodness, we're going to talk ghost stories, and I love it. Some personal ones and all
Yeah.
kinds of things. Want to say hi to our guests, Kim and Tia. Hi, you guys.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
And Cara, partner in crime. You are going to be hosting this, unless we see you go off camera. You're going to be here. We are hoping that another guest is going to come on in. And can we do a little business here really fast? Because we got to talk about books, don't we? We'll let some people come in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you guys what we've been up to. First of all, we've got Cara's book. Here we go,
That's
Cara.
my very first labor of love.
Ooh.
It's actually on Amazon, and you can actually order it through Barnes and Noble online for pickup at the store or shipment to your house too. So
Wow. That looks
Awesome.
super cool.
I have lots of good feedback from that. It is a horror type of book, you
it's
guys.
got it's got some supernatural and stuff in there.
I
Hi,
want to say
Kate.
hi to Kate. And
And
guess what? I clicked on it, but it didn't come up. One more. We're live. This is real.
it is. It
Come
is.
on. It does not want to happen. Hold on a second. Let me just remove that one. You can tell everybody about our book and give them a little teaser because something's happened about our series.
Yes, our first book is out, and it is the Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara, Portals Through Time, and it's the first book in a long series that we have planned, and it's about a psychic librarian and her best friend as they travel through time portals and either save lives or fix karma for clients. Sometimes we find psychic breadcrumbs, and it's very historically accurate to the time we go through as much as it can be. And we meet famous people along the way. But our big news is we finished book two. It's in editing, and hopefully within 2 weeks, we're hoping sooner, it will be on the shelves. And that one is called The Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara, Karma at Karnak Port. We go all the way back to Egypt
Ooh.
to
Wow.
Seti the
It's
first.
so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. We have
Wow.
something for everybody in the book. So we will be,
There is.
posting things about that later because it is just so yummy. And let me check. Uh, come down and we hope one more guest come in, but we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to cover. So, Kara, I'm going to put
Yeah.
it over to you.
Okay. Well, one of the best places and most haunted places in Europe is going back to my mother's motherland, which is England. And Tia has some amazing history facts and hauntings from the Tower of London.
All
So
right.
I am,
So,
yes. Go ahead.
oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me. By the way, I really appreciate it. Um, so the Tower of London, built in 1066 by William the Conqueror. It has served as a royal residence. It has been a prison. I think when I checked, there are over 500 and some odd recorded prisoners that were housed in the Tower of London, including I was used as a prison up until the 50s or 60s. Rudolf Hess was kept there
Wow.
during World War II. Yep, Rudolf Hess was held there for 4 days. And it's also been the site of a lot of executions, murders. Um, so there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of what I would call psychic trauma that has occurred within those walls. So one of the stories to me that's so fascinating is the story of the princes in the tower. And what I find fascinating about it is just because there's that true crime element to it, like, because if, just kind of depend. I'm sorry, I've never done a podcast before. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
But just to kind of, paraphrase, during the War of the Roses, which was the war between, the two royal houses, the Lancasters and the Yorks, and it went on for, a good 100 years or so. Edward the Fourth, when he died, and his son was supposed to take over the throne and be Edward the Fifth. His son was 12 years old at the time. And he had named Edward the Fourth had named his brother Richard as the Lord Protector, until his son reached the age where he could rule on his own. And Richard decided, instead of crowning Edward, that he would take the throne for himself. So he brought Edward and his younger brother Richard. He put them both in the tower in the tower, and said that he was going, before Edward's coronation, which didn't end up happening. And the boys, that was the last anyone saw of the boys, was when they went into the tower. They were never seen or heard from again. And it's been said that people have seen their ghosts playing up on I can't remember the parapets.
Yeah.
Yep.
They've seen the ghosts of two little boys playing up on the parapets. And they've also, people who have toured have seen them, and they'll be standing in a corner and they'll be shaking and crying, and when you go to comfort them, they'll just disappear. So they're in there, and it's so interesting. It's so sad too, but it's so interesting because nobody has ever solved the mystery of what happened to those two boys inside the tower. Nobody's ever solved their murder, and if it was a murder, maybe there was an accident. Nobody knows. And it will be one of the most unsolved. I mean, it'll be unsolved forever, probably. Yeah. But, if you're one of the people, if you're somebody who thinks that, spirits stick around because they have unfinished business, I would say that would be their unfinished business. So that's one haunting. Another one is Anne Boleyn. She's probably arguably one of the most famous ghost in the Tower of London. Oh, yeah. Anne Boleyn was married to King Henry VIII after she was his second wife, and he decided, because she wasn't giving him a son quick enough, that he had to get rid of her. And he decided, instead of going through the whole divorce process like normal people would, he decided he had to have her charged on trumped up charges of treason and incest and witchcraft, and had her executed. She was executed on May 19th of 1536 inside the Tower of London, right outside of the Queen's house. And she's been seen often carrying her head under her arm, walking the tower carrying her head under her arm. There was an incident in when Queen Victoria was, during Queen Victoria's reign, where one of the guards was court-martialed for dereliction of duty because they found him passed out. When they came to relieve him, they found him passed out on the ground, and they thought he had either, he'd been drunk or he had just fallen asleep. And when he told the story, he said, and then when they asked him what had happened, he said that he had seen a female figure that was dressed like Anne Boleyn, like that was dressed in, the traditional Tudor clothing. And he had challenged, the apparition with his bayonet. And when the bayonet went through and, she just walked through, he fainted. and that's actually like that is a documented. That's documented in in the records. So she's arguably one of the most famous ghosts in the tower.
That's amazing. I mean, can you
Yeah.
imagine? She's holding her head. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
really want to see that. By the way, I'd love it.
Yeah, there's a song that was made in the 30s. Like, you can look it up on YouTube. It's with her head tucked underneath her arm. I mean, it's kind of morbid, but it's the song that people made in the 30s, and that's not that's one of the places where she's been seen. She's also been cited at her childhood home in Hever Castle, and I think also in Kent, and I think his Henry's fifth wife, Catherine, has been seen in Hampton Court Palace. So
Wow.
Henry VIII, there's a lot of ghosts in the Tower of London, but Henry VIII is arguably responsible for quite a few of them.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I have not been there, and I'm wondering if any of our viewers have. Kate, have you been there? But the neat thing is that it's hundreds of years, I guess, that they see these apparitions and things like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weird thing is, too, or not supposed the weird thing, but the ironic thing is that the Tower of London traditionally is where monarchs go the night before their coronation. They spend the night there. So not only was Anne Boleyn, taken there after she was arrested, she also spent the night there when she would have gotten to be coronated queen. And so, within a couple of years, there she is awaiting her death.
So it's kind of like a full circle.
Yeah.
I guess if that happened to me, I'd be haunting the heck out of everybody. That was so unjust. Oh my gosh. Kate says that she's been there many times. So, Kate, you see anything? Any lady walking around with her head under her arm? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Hi, Cara. We can't hear you. I think you have a device not on. Check your audio. I love that we are live. This is normal stuff.
There we go.
Oh, we can hear you now.
What happened was the baby started crying. I went to go mute, and I knocked everything off, including the audio and the video. So, oops.
Yeah, I saw that. I go, well, instead of your being muted, it says devices are off. I go, okay, here we go.
It was a
love it.
It was a complete accident, but he's now down being nestled and snuggled by his great grandma. So, but the energy I've heard is a bit strange. I do have friends who have actually been there and have felt this negative or this solemn energy where it just doesn't feel right. It's on my bucket list, especially since I'm so sensitive to those things. I grew up in haunted houses. I don't know if you guys know that, but I grew up in every house I've lived in has had a haunting, and I have met ghosts all the way back to when I was 2 years old, and I still to this day remember everything about them. I have a weird sense of memory. I don't know what it is, but the Tower of London has always intrigued me because it is, it does. It gives you it's intriguing and it's mysterious and it's got such a weird energy in there.
Yeah.
If I was going to be, have my coronation there, or sleeping there, I think I'd be a little nervous. I'd be like, hey, slumber party, and have a bunch of people there with me.
Tia, was Henry VIII, do they see him walking around?
I haven't heard, I can't remember if I've heard anything about him being in the Tower of London, but I know that he's been known to be seen in Hampton Court Palace.
Yeah.
Hampton Court Palace is really That was one of his favorite places to be. And his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, that's where she actually was held before she went to the tower to be executed. And I think it's the hall. There's the royal hall, like the gallery hallway. There have been people who have for years who have toured it, who have, all of a sudden just felt this incredible like dread and not been able, and people who have felt, been just this incredible feeling of dread. It's been said that she's been known to run down the hallway. But mostly I think most people who have toured there have said they just feel like an incredible sense of just dread, which would make sense. I mean, she was held there before she was taken to the tower, and she wasn't told, and at this point she was like a 19-year-old, she's a 19-year-old girl, and she wasn't told what she was being held for. She just knew, she didn't know what she was being held for. She didn't know if he was going to let her go, just let her, if he was going to let her go, if he was going to execute her, what he was going to do. But I think the reason she was running, she managed to break free from the guards that were holding her, and she ran down that hallway to go, where he was in the chapel. She ran down that hallway to go try to talk to him, to, try to appeal to him. And it's said, I don't, it's said, obviously I wasn't there, but that he just sat there and ignored her, and they dragged her back to her rooms, and she was screaming and crying.
Oh
And
my
since then,
gosh.
after she was executed, that's where apparently that's where she gravitated to.
Oops. I think we lost you on voice, Tia.
You did? Hold
There you
on.
Yeah, well,
No,
nope, we got you now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah.
crazy. Nobody wants to put a ring on it. Yeah, don't pick me. Oh my
Well,
God.
Henry VIII loved to put a ring on it, but he didn't like to keep it there for long.
Yeah. I have to say a couple things about Henry VIII. He started out as a pretty good king.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was muscular, he was athletic, and something happened to him after he was thrown during the jousting, and he was injured, and something happened to him body chemistry wise, and the more he gained weight, the more psychotic he became.
Yeah.
I mean, women clamored to be his wife, but there were some serious mental health issues with him. And some have said maybe because of all the women he did bed, maybe he got syphilis,
Mm-hmm.
and he had some lesions or something on his brain, or he could have had some kind of, from the injury, he could have developed a thyroid problem, which causes a chemical imbalance. And yeah, he was loved. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, he was.
He,
And
but
he was politically, he was a good king.
yeah,
He because before I think they had a lot of trouble like with the highway, with crime and stuff, and he
yeah,
he was the one that I think he abolished the liveried retainers where everybody had their own private army. So
yeah,
that stopped a lot of the civil upheaval. And I mean, I think he did a lot of really great things for England.
yeah.
And
He united everybody.
he did. So
Yeah,
he, politically, he was a good king. And I think, if he had just been allowed to let one of his daughters, you know what I mean? Like,
you know,
if it, because that
that's
was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said that was another thing is he was, a lot of his, well, they didn't know for sure back then, but a lot of his advisors told him it was his wife's fault that he was not having a male heir, which is untrue. And he did have a couple of stillbirths that were sons. I think it was one or two. But he I think the paranoia from his illness, whatever was going on with him that caused him to gain all that massive amount of weight, I think it made him paranoid, and his advisors took advantage of that. One of his wives that was executed, and I don't remember which one, honestly, um, her sister plotted against her and put out things and told him that she was cheating on him with some person in the court, and she was beheaded, and I can't remember which one it was.
I think that was Anne,
He wasn't,
actually.
okay. But it wasn't true. But because he was so delusional of when it came and paranoid when it came to loyalty for his wives, he just like he didn't kill his first wife. He was still sane. He allowed her and his daughter to he didn't do anything to her, allowed her to see the daughter, but the daughter I think stayed with him, I believe, and was raised with him. But it was very, it was a very weird thing. And I felt, I kind of, even though he did do so many horrible things to his wives, I feel sorry for him. I think there was something wrong with him that you just wouldn't have been diagnosed back then. And had he gotten the help that he might have with modern medicine, who knows what great achievements he could have had.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah, and I mean, like, people, a lot of people, when they think of Henry VIII, they think of him with all that weight and all the wives, and they don't realize that there was just so much of his life that doesn't really, get known, isn't really known. Like, he was athletic, he was very musical, he loved to, I mean, could play just about any instrument. I've read he wrote beautiful music and songs. Like, he wrote some beautiful songs. He was very deeply religious. I mean, everybody was back then, but before, he wasn't actually meant to be the king. He was the second son, so he was actually earmarked for the church.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be. He was going to go into the church before his brother Arthur ended up dying. So, I mean, there was a lot to his life that people just, people don't know. And he's just, one thing you could say for the Tudors is they're just never dull. They were never dull.
It's true.
Right.
Kim, what were you going to say about King Henry VIII?
Oh, well, just like you said, there's so much that people don't know. I mean, because Arthur was supposed to be the king, and he was married to Catherine of Aragon, and so that was the whole reason why Henry decided that they should divorce, was that their marriage wasn't quote unquote legitimate, and so even though Catherine's swore up and down that their marriage had never been consummated, Henry decided that God was punishing them, and so he divorces her, and then he casts off Mary, his daughter, with Catherine of Aragon. She sends her to live in her own home, which was at the time was not unusual for royal children to actually have their own household separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
So he sends her off to live on her own. And then when he marries Anne Boleyn and they have their daughter, he declares Mary illegitimate. And then, of course, when Anne Boleyn gets beheaded, he declares Elizabeth illegitimate, and now Mary's back in his favor. And then he has his son, and then nobody else is legitimate, and it's just a whole mess.
Yeah.
So and it's interesting too, because so obviously Queen Mary was able to take the throne after Edward dies. And then, of course, after Mary dies, then Elizabeth comes to the throne. But England didn't change its laws allowing a woman to take the throne if there were no other male heirs till like 10 years ago, I want to say.
Well, the Queen just made it that Princess Charlotte, if something, God forbid, were to happen to her older brothers, she would be Queen Charlotte. No hands. She would be the heir, so that women can now inherit the throne.
Yeah,
directly,
without having to go through all those hoops.
Yeah. Even if they have a younger brother, they still would inherit the throne now, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I hope I got that right, because that's what I had read on one of the biography things when they were talking about her jubilee, that she pushed the monarchy forward more so than it had ever been.
Yeah, so. I mean, arguably she's been on the throne for 70 years. I mean, if you think about that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time. And she pushed through a lot of, You know, she's seen the monarchy through a lot of changes.
Yeah. I knew
So.
Kate would know. By the way, Kate is in England, so
Oh,
she's in Great
so
Britain.
Kate said yes. It's the next one. Next
Yes.
one down.
Yeah, I knew she would know for sure. I swore I had read that, but you know, just wanted to make sure. But yeah, the Tower of London to me is fascinating. It really is.
Yeah.
And you know, we've also got, you know, we've got some Transylvanian things happening too tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Everyone, when they think of Bran Castle, they think of Vlad the Impaler.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because Bram Stoker based Dracula on Bran Castle. However, interesting fact, Vlad never lived there. He was imprisoned there and tortured there, but that was never his residence. And he did pass through during some of the invasions that were going on when they were having conquests and things. But the castle it's about 16 miles from Brasvo. I want to say that right. And it's a big fortress in the Transylvanian side of Oaxaca. I pronounce it right. But it's,
Cara, which castle are we talking about? I'm sorry.
excuse me, Bran Castle.
Okay.
Yeah, Bran. There you go. It started out, believe it or not, in the 1200s, in the early 1200s. It was a wooden structure. And then they made this grand fortress of a castle out of stone in the 1300s. I think it was completed around 1377. And in the 1430s, 1450s, it became like a customs post between Wallachia and Transylvania. So there was like trading post things going on there and customs where they would check things. And Vlad, like I said, he passed through many, many times, but it wasn't until he was imprisoned that he actually spent time there. But it must have made a big impression on him because Vlad is still touring the torture chambers in the basement or the dungeon area of the castle. He has seen, he has felt. When they I think that when they opened it for tours and everything, I think the torture devices, some of them are still there, like the Iron Maiden and things. But he's around those things because he was tortured with several of the torture items of the day before he either, I can't remember if he escaped or let go that time, because he had been so many times he was captured and let go or escaped. So there's so many, but he went on a terror many times, and one of the reasons that he did was the attacks on his family. When he was a very young boy, I believe 5 or 6, he watched his father, Vlad, and his brother, I think it was his brother Radu. They were tortured in front of him, and they were not quite dead when they were thrown into a pit and buried alive while this little boy watched. And then his father's killer raised him, took him, and tried to raise him as one of theirs, as one of their people. But I guess it didn't sit well with him. But this castle has a rich history. And when you go a little further, the Queen Marie, she was in 1920, she fell in love with this castle and she made this the royal residence. And she loved it so much that she meticulously restored it to its grandeur and found furniture had furniture recreated that would have been furniture from back in its glory days. So she did all of that in 1920. And when she passed away, I guess she decided she loved her castle too much. She walks the halls and inspects different things in her castle. She's considered a friendly spirit, very amiable and everything. but she just has to walk her beautiful halts that she fell in love with. Kind of like a love story. It's kind of, sweet that she did that. But those are the two main ghosts in Bran Castle. One very much tormented, angry, destructive, and one very loving, open, grand, royal. Complete contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on my bucket list to see because of that stark contrast with
Yeah.
But has anyone ever heard of anything with the Bran Castle or with Bram Stoker and his fixation with it?
I remember watching an episode of Ghost Hunters. I don't know, how much stock you can put in Ghost Hunters. But I remember watching an episode of Ghost Hunters International where I believe that is where they was Bran Castle. And I mean, they picked up on something while they were there. They picked up on something. I can't remember now because it was years ago, but I think it was EVP. But there was something.
Yeah. Wasn't it in Romanian too? The EVP came through in Romanian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is also a tell, that it probably was her as opposed to Vlad, but I guess his language would have been close enough to modern day Romanian. But I know it was a foreign language. I know they couldn't understand what it was. They had to have it translated.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think, Kim? We want to go ghost hunting there?
I'm really curious about this benevolent ghost. She sounds pretty cool. Like, I would hang out with her.
Yeah. I mean, she was Queen of Romania. It's kind of interesting, Yeah. But yeah, Transylvania has a lot of spooky places to begin with. But, and the castle that I'm really interested in would be the Ponari Castle, which is Vlad's home. And that one is in a lot of ruins. You can see it's missing a lot of stuff. But you see those stairs? That is 1,480 stairs, concrete stairs that you have to walk to get into that castle. And now it is located on a plateau on Mount, I'm going to screw this name up, Satati, something like that. But it's facing west, which, gives you a valley on one side, kind of, and it's got the cliffs. But this was where Vlad and his wife lived. It was their residence. And when Vlad was away fighting the Turks with the Ottomans, Turkish invaders stormed the castle. And his wife, she knew what would happen to her if she was captured alive. His wife threw herself off the cliff from one of the highest parts of the castle down the cliff to escape capture. She would rather have died than have the Turks take her. So she really, her ghost has been seen there, and her ghost is very solemn, very sad, very scared. Vlad has also been seen there. I think he gets around. But his footprint is there too. And I'm wondering if he is searching for her or she is searching for him, because when he got back, he was so devastated that he went on one of his torture sprees. If anyone knows anything about Vlad the Impaler, he got his name from the way he used to like to dispense of his enemies. And he would have a beautiful banquet set up in the courtyard. And he would have torches and everything lighting it up. But then he would have, in between the torches, there would be these spikes, these rods that were spiked. And he would have the alive people put on the spike just slightly and let them their weight pull them down and impale them while he ate and entertained. It was one of his favorite tortures, and that's why he's called Vlad the Impaler. But I mean, he had so much hate for the Turks because of what happened to his father and his brother that I think that I think he was mad with vengeance. I really do. He was just awful when it came to stuff like that. And if you were disloyal to him, if you were a friend or a subject or someone who was part of his, I guess I'd say today, entourage, and you were found to be disloyal in some way, shape, or form, or you dared to question his sanity or anything like that, you ended up on one of those spikes. You knew it. So there is talk of some of the moans and things that come from around there come from the area where these people were killed. They're probably still lingering there too. So
that guy was so insane. And didn't he have like the stakes around the castle or the fortress?
He had.
Crazy.
He did. He would put after the bodies were dead, he would take the heads and put them on spikes surrounding the castle to warn people. But no, he liked to watch them die. So they would be around his area where he dined outside in his outdoor area. I guess we'd call it a patio today. But yeah, he would have them, and he would invite visiting heads of state, no pun intended. And while he was like negotiating with them, these people would be sitting there moaning and groaning and crying out in pain. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to work with you. Yes, he was a very, very sick man, but I think his mind was warped when he was a child. What he witnessed was something no child should ever witness.
Right.
Yeah. So
I remember seeing a meme on Facebook around Halloween. It was his portrait, Vlad the Impaler, and then the caption was Halloween yard decorating champion of 1460. I was like, oh, that's awful, but it's so funny.
No, it is funny. Oh gosh, that's hysterical.
it is.
Yeah.
That was a good one. There's got to be tons of ghosts and people at unrest, through all that time, everywhere. There just has to. That is just too much energy. Maybe it's going to imprint, itself into time and space, but there's going to be some bad stuff there.
Oh yeah, definitely. But there's other weird things like Kim. I mean, have you ever do you like horror films, or have you ever seen anything when they're talking about like the legend of Dracula and stuff? And
yeah, actually when you were talking about this, I could picture, because I remember when Francis Ford Coppola did his Bram Stoker's Dracula, the one from the 90s. I remember that scene at the beginning where it has his wife and it has all this other stuff and everything else. And so, I remember seeing that on film, and so I can picture exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's fascinating, honestly, because you're not supposed to feel sorry for Vlad the Impaler, but when you hear his life story, you kind of do. I mean,
I'm not going to. No.
I think a lot of these rulers. Yeah, I think a lot of these rulers who have done these atrocious things. I mean, obviously, I'm not excusing their behavior, but I think they're shaped by their environment. They're shaped by their upbringing. It didn't just come out of nowhere. There was something that happened that caused it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of, trauma or a catalyst of some kind that brought that around.
Oh yeah.
I think that there's DNA too,
Yeah.
And we, a lot of people environmentally have things happen and they go have a normal life. These sadistic things are are dark and they're so bad. And so when people are like that, we think about the energy and what's going on. It's just so bad. And that feeds in these things that come in, the dark stuff out there in the world and in the universe, and they come in and it makes it more crazy. And
Yeah.
a lot of the haunted houses, there's these things called scrabblies. And so those dark things that start globbing together, and they love this dark stuff and the horror and the murders and all of that. And when I knew what this stuff was, and then I'm watching something called The Dead Files for the first time. As an accident, it came on, and there was Amy, and she was trying to say, "Oh, these things that where the place was so dark. There were these crabby jellyfish things everywhere." And I went, "What the heck? Did she just say that?" Then she picked up a sketch, and she shows them artist rendering. And I said, "Those are scrabblies." And people, these things happen. That's why people go somewhere and they go, "I'm going to kill myself," or "I'm going to let something take over," because it's already in that space. That castle's got to be full of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
that stuff will glob on and it'll get bigger. And then we are getting into more trouble in what is going to be in there. So I can only think that people probably took stuff home with them that were going to see it, or they have a really depressing energy. But he could have been affected by, the environment and this dark energy, and just had a little bit of DNA that made him a little too cuckoo, because that was beyond.
Yeah.
Do they know how many people estimate that he killed?
Oh, it was hundreds, hundreds. I think it was even close to 1,000, maybe. He, and it wasn't just like he wouldn't just go out and say, "Hey, I want that peasant," take them. These were his actual mortal enemies. These are people who he believed had done something so horrendous to him or his family that they, so it was definitely, it was a lot. I don't think they actually have a number. They just guesstimate based on artist renderings from back then and different things. But I don't think they have an accurate number. But yeah, that castle kind of creeps me out. I would be interested because I've always been fascinated with Dracula since I was like 2 years old. But yeah, I would definitely go see that one. Our final thing tonight, which is a fun one, is the Hoya Forest, and it is the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania.
Ooh.
Yes, this forest is it's actually one of the most active areas in the world in terms of like mysterious events with paranormal phenomena. And there's actually a glade in the I think it's like towards the center of the forest. They call it the Devil Heart because it's like rounded, and it looks very spooky, but it has no trees in that area. It's like completely like just like the trees just stop right there. It's crazy. But the biggest thing that happened in this forest, which started all the craziness, was there was a shepherd, and he was herding 200 sheep through the forest, and the shepherd disappeared with just nothing. There she is. She's back.
My computer said it was going to turn off. And I was like, "What's going on?" And it did. And I'm like, "Okay, you guys didn't like what I was saying? I don't know." Anyway, forward.
Well, we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, the forest. But they disappeared. I mean, there were no bodies found, nothing. No animals ever came out of that forest. 200. Where the heck do 200 sheep go?
Yeah.
It's insane. And there was never a trace. Nothing. No trace within that forest at all. But after that happened, the phenomenon, the disturbing behaviors and happenings kept, they just got worse. People who went and passed, through the forest, in through some of the active areas like that Devil's Heart, they complained of skin irritations, even blisters and burns and redness. They had headaches and amplified sensations like of being thirsty or being having the sense of dizzy, like being like they were going to faint or something, and then tremendous anxiety and panic coming in on them. And there was, when you get into the 20th century, and our UFOs sightings, it was said that a UFO was sighted hovering directly over the forest, and that there were like, I guess, several ghostly apparitions that were also seen, and more disappearances of people. And it just baffles scientists, the whole thing with the UFO hovering over the heart of it, which is where the Devil's Heart is, and then all these apparitions that were showing up, and then disappearances of people. And the villagers, I guess, well, the locals, they call them both, they feel these sensations to their bodies that are very peculiar, like just physical anomalies that they feel when they're near the forest. And they also have said that there are strange lights and shadows and different apparitions that they see from the forest when not being in there. But voices are heard, cries are heard, and I don't think anyone there is going to investigate any of that stuff, especially at night. But they even believe that the trees and the vegetation within the forest is very unnatural. There are weird shapes that are like almost like human faces in the tree trunks. It looks like they're like someone's soul was sucked up into a tree trunk and their face is on there. Yeah, it's very, very, very freaky. I wouldn't go in there at night. I would not. But people do strange things, like they go in there for picnics and they go in there for jogging, on the trails and stuff. I don't think I would. I mean,
No.
I would, yeah, I think it would scare the crap out of me, honestly. Especially the tree trunk thing. I think I've seen one too many horror films where someone is sucked into some kind of vortex, and their head is like frozen in time on some kind of inanimate object, and that's what it reminds me of. It does.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what they call the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania?
I definitely would not be there after dark for sure. But, isn't that, there's a lot of, if you think about it, there's a lot of different places on the earth where people, there's a lot of disappearances,
Mm-hmm.
That's
where,
for Tia.
where people just kind of, they're gone and you nobody ever sees or hears from them again.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, Kim, what do you think about the fact that Devil's Heart in the center where no vegetation grows? I mean,
that's weird. So, this has everything. We've got ghosts, we've got UFOs, this is like an X-Files episode waiting to happen.
yes. Yes, exactly. That's what I thought when I read about it.
I think there's a lot of like dead spaces where they think that some kind of spaceship came and had left some kind of chemicals or something where it won't grow.
Yeah.
And that is so bizarre, because what's stopping that unless something was done, something was there.
Yeah. And it's called the Devil's Heart because of the shape. It's two rounded coming together, and it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Crazy.
Very weird. I'm sorry, but I don't think I would go jogging in there. I don't know how the locals do. I would not go jogging or have a picnic in there. I think that my senses would be too heightened. What about you,
You
Kim?
know,
You
you're
going?
hedging the bet. You know, when people go into haunted houses and stuff, they think it's so funny when they bring something home that haunts the heck out of them. That was a good idea. But
Yeah.
I don't think that anything can make you depressed. Yes, Tia? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was agreeing. Yeah, you don't take things you don't take things home with you. Absolutely
No.
no.
This is what gets me about the people that are going out, because I led ghost tours and did, paranormal investigator and all that stuff. But my goodness, they go in and then then one thing I hate about the shows that tease the spirits, that's not a good thing either. But people go in and they do all this stuff and whatever. They go home without putting a protection in, without saying nothing's going with me. Let's throw some holy water out, some salt. Let's, set an intention. No, they get in their cars and then, you got a hitchhiker ghost with you. Not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
want the
definitely.
dark stuff. You don't want the dark stuff. Grandma, you can come over. But when you get these dark things that come, then people, and people get this. When people go somewhere, they take something they're not supposed to, right? The old glass or rock or petrified wood or whatever it is. They end up sending it back because they took some energy and they're getting that bad stuff. And as long as they have it, it's going to be bad stuff. And they send stuff back all the time. There's a ghost town in California called Bodie, and they have a museum of all the stuff that got sent back with the letter saying, "Oh my God, this happened, this happened, this happened. You can have your glass back or your rock or whatever they took, because it's bad juju, it's bad stuff."
Yeah. And Kim, are you willing to go picnicking through the forest?
That is a hard pass. Very hard pass.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna have my next wedding there.
Oh my gosh.
For
It was
sure.
right where the heart is.
Yeah, right in the devil's heart. It's where be a great wedding venue.
Maybe I'll have my honeymoon there,
I know there are people that will do this. You see them on social media all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, no thank you. I pass on the blood martini or whatever it is. I'm not
Yeah.
What? Yeah, and Kate says, really, that's bad. Yeah, it is.
I
Don't mess with it.
Like that show, we're thinking about people, like, where you were saying about antagonizing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, some of the
What is that?
Yes.
Ghost Adventures with that Zach Baggins guy.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And
I know of who you speak.
and he's in there screaming, taunting, and I'm like, you don't want to be. This is not a good idea. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the time when somebody answers him and he doesn't like it.
You didn't hear what happened to him then, did you?
I guess I didn't. What happened?
One of the times that he was doing his antagonistic things, he brought a demon home.
Wow.
Him and I think it attached more to Nick. Nick didn't even do anything. I think it was Nick. I can't remember.
Yeah.
One of them was really attacked after they left when they got home.
Wow.
Being tormented. But Zach went and bought that house that was supposed to have like a demon in it I think it was in Indiana and stuff.
Yeah.
And, things were happening to him in a bad way. And it's like, well, what do you expect? You buy a house that has some kind of demon or some kind of dark energy, and then you buy it and you start ripping the house up, and then you're antagonizing it at the same time. What do you think will happen? It's scary.
The demons
and I
like him. They do.
And that house in.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Tia.
I was just saying that house in Indiana you're talking about, I watched a show about it, and the family that lived here, I mean, they lived through some terrifying stuff. I mean, that demon was picking their children up and throwing their children against a wall. I mean, it was not, he didn't come there to play.
No.
In one of my books, somebody from the Dead Files gave us a story.
Ooh.
And during this time period that we were dealing with this person, we got strange. My other co-author, Andy, and I, Andy got strange texts from the guy. And we're like, what is this? They don't even have this font, these characters. What is this being said? But we could see some of the writing, and it was about Zach, and it was a message for him. And I happen to know somebody who knows him, and so I reached out that person. I said, "We have a message," and I told what the message was, because he had a project going on at the time, and nobody knew what this was, anything about this project, and it was about the project, and it came straight, from this guy that was on that show to Andy, to me. I knew the person that could get to him, and she stopped it right there. She's a witch. She stopped it right there, and she said, "You're dealing with a demon." And he got a short little line to Zach, and so we're stopping it now. And come to pass, it was about, he was doing something that was secret that came out. And it was just like, I went, well, those sneaky guys. And how dare you go through me,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a short line from these people to get to him.
Wow.
And so, I go, oh, they're interested in him because they're playing with him. They've got this message and they're playing with him. Like, if you do that, guess what's going to happen? So crazy stuff, you guys. It's crazy stuff. But we published in our book the text. We took all the identifying things off, but you'll see there's no, how do they text this stuff? There's no, symbols.
Yeah.
They don't have that. So how did that come in? It was so weird, really weird. So you guys got to stay away from the demon things. You got to, any of that stuff. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Oh my goodness. So we have a few minutes left. If anybody has a ghost story, or Cara, whatever you want to do.
Well, I was just going to say, I have enjoyed having you guys on as guests. It has been amazing. And being able to discuss things. Tia, your microphone is out again.
No. Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're there.
I'm doing this on my phone, so I sometimes I put my finger over the microphone.
Okay. So. But yeah, I have really enjoyed, getting your take on some of these crazy stories. And Tia, you talking about the Tower of London. I would welcome you guys back anytime. It's amazing to have these discussions. It has been great.
This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for letting him come on.
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
So much.
There's really enjoyed
so much
this.
out there. Yeah, so much out there to discuss, and what's going on with that place, and what famous ghosts and stuff. Mm-hmm. Always yummy, always good.
Oh yeah, but you guys are welcome anytime. Hit me up, message me, okay. Or I think we're Facebook friends. You can look up my phone number on there, and you can call me, whatever. We would love.
Yeah.
We love to have.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I want to let everybody know that next week we're planning on having Kit Adams. You guys know Kit. Kit's going to be in. She's got some personal ghost stories, and we're all going to gather people and have a really great time talking about all these things, because you guys, it's real. You guys that are sitting out there going in, it's real. Yeah. It really is. I have so many ghost stories. All true. Things fly in my house. It's super haunted, but it's good stuff. I don't let the bad stuff in. That's called warding. I'm going to teach that someday. You guys got to keep those things out. But it's crazy and it's scary, and we love it.
Yes, we do.
We do. This has been awesome for me. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Oh,
Tia, please, just you guys, Kim, Tia, all you have to say is, I want to be on. It's like, okay, here's the link. Come on.
I'd come back anytime.
wonderful.
Let's see. Let me look at the time.
Oh, and I do have to say one thing. Our usual co-host and co-star of the show, Brandi, got really sick this a couple of days ago, and I just wanted to ask everyone, if whatever you believe in, prayers, love and light, whatever, you can send her some good vibes so she can get rid of this whole chest cold and sinus thing that's really dragging her down.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that
healing, all the healers out there, Brandi, send Brandi some really good energy and healing so that she can come out of this. It was a fast thing, and just happened, surprised everybody, so she could really use that. And we appreciate all that, light workers and everyone. Thoughts and prayers, Kate. Thank you so much. So anyway, Brandi, I'm sure she's going to be on next week, so that'll be great. And what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, we got to find out how much Kit has got going on, because if she's got a lot, we're going to be piled to the rim there. But I'm sure that we've got some personal ghost stories we can add in there to the mix, and just have a personal ghost story kind of night.
Yeah, I've got a few scary ones. Most of the ghosts, you guys, that I see are okay. Like, they're fine. It's like I wake up, there's somebody like looking at me, and I'm okay. I got to go. Nice, but I got to go to sleep. Well, it's just when they start knocking on the door that I don't like it at 3 a.m. No.
Well, we know about the demon in the basement of the house that my ex-partner, and I rented. So,
I can't wait. Tell that one. Tell it next week.
That was terrifying. I will.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, it is after the hour, so we need to go. And we don't want to, but we have to. It's just because, did I look like a crazy person when that happened? My laptop was not plugged in. And he goes, "You're out of juice." I'm like, I knocked over. I don't even know where the front of the microphone went. Everything flipped up. I'm so calm and cool, and I'm like that mad person. And looking, where is the cord? I'm your comic relief. Next time I gotta, I know what I'm doing. No, I screw the pictures up all the time. But you know what? I'm a fantastic reader. So there we go. All right, you guys, we're going to go. And Kim, please, you guys stay on. We're going to say goodbye to everybody, but stay here. Don't click off.
All right. Sounds good.
Talk a little bit. Okay. So time to say goodbye to the viewers.
Bye.
Thank you so much. And we will see you next Saturday. Take care.